Bienvenue à tous. Welcome to Live from Paris, world news and analysis from France 24. I'm Mark Owen. These are the headlines. The football genius Diego Maradona has died. 3 days of national mourning have been declared in Maradona's Argentina. The footballer will lie in state at the presidential palace. His agent confirmed he died after a heart attack. He was 60 years old. A post-mortem examination is to be held. And we'll be live to Buenos Aires to our correspondent Declan McGarvey for the latest in a moment. In Naples, where Maradona put the club on the world football map, fans have taken to the streets in their thousands to pay tribute. Reactions coming in from all over the world, including the great Brazilian footballer Pelé. He said, "I hope we'll play soccer together in the sky." We'll be going to Rome, Italy, to our correspondent Seema Gupta for more from there very shortly. Good evening, Seema. Women around the world are marking International Day for the Elimination of Violence against women, highlighting how lockdowns due to the pandemic have left many trapped with their abusers and exposed to even greater danger. This is Live from Paris. Thank you very much for being with us. Diego Maradona has died at the age of 60. The Argentinian football star was revered across the world for his immense talent. 3 days of national mourning have been declared in his native Argentina, where his death from a heart attack was confirmed. He had been in hospital earlier this month to undergo brain surgery, and a forensic investigation has been launched. Maradona's death has touched millions of people. Reaction and analysis of that to come, starting with the Barcelona star Lionel Messi, seen as Maradona's sporting heir and successor in Argentinian, if not world football. Messi making this very simple statement: Diego is eternal. Let's now listen to some reactions from the streets of Argentina's capital, Buenos Aires.
No puedo creer, es una cosa increíble. Uno piensa que se puede pasar todas las tormentas que pueda haber, pero se ve que no. Terminamos siendo todos mortales. Estoy súper... no, estoy digiriendo. Siento que es un mal sueño, un poco. Siento que es un chiste. Quiero creer que es un chiste.
Lo primero que me dijo mi hijo de 12 años es: mamá, se murió Maradona. Y no lo podía creer. Y no lo adoraba, yo particularmente. Sin embargo, me dio pena.
Totalmente conmocionado, dolorido. Y te voy a ser franco, por ahí esto no lo querés sacar, pero creo que fue un gran tipo que no tuvo muy buenas relaciones a su alrededor, que se aprovecharon mucho de él.
The president of Argentina has reacted via social media. Alberto Fernandez writing, "You took us to the top of the world. You made us immensely happy. You were the greatest of all. Thanks for having existed, Diego. We will miss you for life." Let's bring in our correspondent in Buenos Aires, Declan McGarvey, for more. Buenos Aires, of course, the place where the Maradona story started and finished. Declan, thanks for being with us. Tell us more about the reaction where you are.
And of national mourning. A few minutes, Diego Maradona's body has been transferred to a morgue near his home in the northern suburbs of Buenos Aires. That transfer was accompanied by motorcycle police, but on the pavement of the road that convoy passed, there were thousands of Argentinians defying lockdown laws to go outside to cheer on Diego Maradona's body as he goes back to the morgue in Buenos Aires. It is an outpouring. We hear one person, an ordinary Argentinian like many others, expressing shared emotion, saying earlier today that he could have lived for so much longer. Diego Maradona was the greatest and the most humble of players. He never played for money, and he played for the joy of the game. People here still can't quite believe this has happened. Diego Maradona, only 60 years old, Argentina's greatest son, arguably the greatest footballer ever to have walked the planet, dead at 60 years old from what is believed to have been a massive, sudden and fatal heart attack.
Indeed, making his pro debut at the age of 15 and then going on to become a legend. It's as though he's been a legend since childhood in many ways. Why do you think people took Maradona to heart in the way they did? Big star, public figure, but nonetheless people in Argentina and in many ways around the world feeling in some way he's a part of them.
Yeah, he was very much a man of the people. He was a brilliant footballer, a genius on the pitch. There's no doubt about that. But he was also a larger-than-life character. Now, I can remember one such instance when he was in addiction treatment at a clinic in Fidel Castro's Cuba. Diego Maradona was a very politicized figure. And he was a fan of the Castros and went there for addiction treatment. Now, an Argentinian film crew went to film him, to interview him, to see how his treatment was going. They were filming on the Caribbean Sea. Diego Maradona was fishing from a large boat. He had his top off, showing his big, strong torso. And it was very visible on his arm. He had a giant tattoo high up on his arm of Che Guevara. Now, Diego Maradona, in his interview, the interviewer said to Diego Maradona, "I see there, Diego, you have a tattoo there of Che Guevara, the Argentine revolutionary." Diego Maradona, quick as you like, turned to the camera and said directly to the Argentinian people watching at home, "Yes, and you know what? This is the only place that you're going to see the two greatest Argentinians in history in the same place at the same time, Diego Maradona and Che Guevara." He was a larger-than-life character, and both for his footballing skills and his massive personality, he touched the lives of millions of Argentinians who are mourning him right now.
3 days of national mourning declared, his body to lie in state at the presidential palace.
Yes, that's right. We have details coming through, both of surrounding the events of Diego Maradona's death, but also of the plans of Argentina's government to celebrate the life of Diego Maradona. Now, so far, we do know in the last few minutes, authorities have made known that Diego Maradona, his time of death was around 12 p.m. midday earlier today. Authorities have confirmed that there were no signs of violence in connection with this death, and that no signs of a traumatic death, and that Diego Maradona died of natural causes. It is confirmed that an autopsy will take place to establish the exact causes of death, but it is thought that he suffered a massive, sudden and fatal heart attack. And ambulances were called after this happened, obviously, and they arrived within 5 minutes of the ambulances being called, but medical staff were unable to resuscitate Diego Maradona. Now, we do know also in the last few minutes as well, Alberto Fernandez has said that as well as his 3 days of mourning, they're going to hold a vigil for Diego Maradona, and they're going to make the presidential palace available for this. This is very much symbolic of who Diego Maradona was for Argentinians. He was El Dios, God. He was known as the immortal figure. He was arguably the greatest Argentine in Argentina's history. And this is a nation very much in mourning today.
Declan McGarvey in Buenos Aires, thank you very much indeed for bringing us a sense of what is happening there, where Diego Maradona was earlier pronounced dead at the age of 60. And as Declan was saying, a post-mortem examination autopsy is to take place to analyse precisely what happened, but it is believed that Diego Maradona died of natural causes, a heart attack. There was brain surgery some weeks ago, and of course it's just a question of speculation whether there is a link between those two issues, but nonetheless natural causes is the first conclusion as to why the great footballer has died. His career, of course, began in Argentina. He later moved to Barcelona before arriving in Naples in 1984. It was here that his star status became almost a cult. Let's show you the images now live in that Italian city. You can see thousands of people coming out to pay tribute, as football fans only know how, by making noise and chanting the name of the person they revere, and in this case, of course, Diego Maradona, who still has cult-like status among, and not just fans in Napoli, but in the whole city, such was the impact he made when he played there in the 80s. His skill, his athletic ability helping transform Napoli from a football team of also-rans to national champions, not just rubbing shoulders with Italy's soccer elite, but beating them soundly on the pitch. That's Napoli. Let's go to Rome, where Seema Gupta is awaiting us. Seema Gupta, of course, our correspondent there. Maradona's death seemed to be mourned by football fans everywhere, but perhaps in Naples more than most. Diego Maradona putting Napoli very much on the world football map. What's the reaction where you are?
Well, I think it's really just one across the country of shock and sorrow, but it's really being felt, as you said, in the city of Naples, because, of course, he played in the city's club, Napoli, and he won the Scudetto, the Serie A title, twice in 87 as well as in 90. And so you have the mayor of Naples today saying that the city is in mourning for the death of Diego Maradona, and he's called for the city's San Paolo Stadium to be renamed the Diego Armando Maradona Stadium. In 2017, Maradona was named an honorary citizen of the city, very much a beloved figure. He has been elevated to the status of a saint, if you like. And as you saw in those images, people coming together to remember him, to remember his talent. There's the Quartieri Spagnoli, or the Spanish Quarter, in the historic part of the city of Naples, seeing these crowds of people gather in front of a massive mural of Maradona. You have a bar there that had photos as well as his jerseys, and even projecting images of some of his famous goals that he has played. It's also interesting to note that the mayor tweeting this evening saying he wasn't just Argentinian, he was also Neapolitan. And we understand from the Vatican spokesperson that even Pope Francis has been informed of his death. Pope Francis, of course, is Argentinian. And so he said that he remembered him with affection, having met him a few times. And so both these Argentinian men, Pope Francis himself, known to be passionate about football, so him also making a comment about the death of Maradona.
Indeed, it is a remarkable impact that Diego Maradona has made on Italy. And as you say, meeting the Pope is a remarkable thing for any footballer to achieve, but almost meeting his equals is kind of how it seemed to happen in many ways. All the more impressive when one considers the impact that Maradona made in many ways off the pitch in Italy, where there were many controversies and scandals.
Exactly. I mean, he won the Scudetto. You had the city partying for 5 days, hundreds of thousands of people on the street. It was a massive impact because he took this club that was from the south of the country, the poorer south of the country, having beaten those clubs like Juventus and AC Milan up in the north. And so for that purpose, it was really, he saw the fortunes there, but he also saw a lot of suffering there. It is known that it is in Naples where he began his drug problem, if you like. And he was also known to have had reportedly contacts with the organized crime gangs there, the Camorra. On top of that, there were all these controversies around tax issues, alleged tax evasion. For many years, he couldn't return to Italy because of concerns that he would be arrested. Eventually, these contentious issues were settled, and he did, in fact, return to Italy. And on top of that, also, he was said to have had a child with a woman from Naples, something that he denied for many years. And in the end, eventually, he did reconcile with this child. It's interesting to note, though, in the 90s, so much was the affection and the adoration for Diego Maradona that many children in Naples were named after him.
I'm sure they won't be the last. Seema Gupta, thank you very much indeed for giving us that sense of how Italy, and in particular Naples, is reacting to the death of Diego Maradona at the age of 60. I'm joined by our sports editor, Simon Harding, for more on this situation. Simon, can we start, if you don't mind, by reminding us of the basic facts of the story so far?
Absolutely. Diego Maradona, 60 years old, with what we now know is a heart attack in his home region of Tigre, where he died at home. Diego Maradona, who is, of course, one of the greatest football players ever in the history of football. He survived another heart attack, it must be said, a near fatal one in 2005. A lot of people said that it was a miracle that he survived that one. So we do know that his health was very poor in recent years. He'd been in hospital earlier this month to remove a brain clout. So again, an idea of his health. And you were talking there about some of the controversies surrounding him, particularly his addiction to Class A drugs and to alcohol precipitating, without a doubt, I think, his condition today.
Indeed. He never won the Ballon d'Or, which is seen as the great arbiter of the great footballers these days. Lionel Messi, his successor in many ways, actually wearing the Argentinian number 10, of course, as he does, has won it a record 6 times. You'll correct me if I'm wrong, I know. Can you explain why Diego Maradona never won the Ballon d'Or?
It's hard to say. It's one of those things where, unfortunately, at the time of the panel, a lot of questions are raised. You know, why did Xavi never win the Ballon d'Or? Why did Iniesta never win the Ballon d'Or in a year where Barcelona won everything there was to be won in 2010, and when he scored the winning goal in the World Cup final against the Netherlands, I believe it was. So, you know, there are plenty of question marks as to why that didn't happen. What we can say, what we do know for sure, is that he's a player that enlightened a generation, a player that many people looked up as a god. We've heard that word, El Pipe d'Oro, the golden boy, as he was known in Argentina. He is one of the only players in the history of football to have carried his team to World Club glory in 1986. So, you know, what can you say more than that? Indeed, a remarkable player by anybody's judgment. In my opinion, the best, but, you know, I'm sure we could argue at that forever. Simon, thank you very much indeed for bringing us that extra insight there. Simon Harding, our sports editor. Let's bring in another guest to talk about the life and times of Diego Maradona on the pitch, off the pitch, anywhere you like. Javier Prieto Santos is editor-in-chief of So Foot magazine. Javier, thank you very much for joining us. Maradona's death, your reaction, sir?
It's a big shock. It was a legend, and I've never seen him in live playing football, but I can say that he's the best player of the history of this sport. Social and social-cultural and political. Sorry.
No, his influence, and I think what you're getting at, his influence was on the pitch, but off the pitch too. There was a massive influence in terms of how he conducted himself, also his political leanings too, his friendship with Fidel Castro, for instance.
We can't resume Maradona to a footballer. Is a cultural fact, is a political fact. His political thought wasn't even very good, but I can say that I'm an Argentinian born, so I can say that he was like a god for Argentina, and it's unbelievable to lose Maradona in a year like 2020 because the COVID and Big Bryant's Maradona. It's like a scary year. So I will stay in the memory of the Argentinian like the Guevara of the football, and he's a legend and he's a god because his nickname was Dios, D-10-S. So he was considered like that, like a god, and it's a very, very big shock in Argentina and for all the fun football in the world. So.
Javier Prieto Santos, editor-in-chief of So Foot magazine. We're going to have to leave it there because the quality of the sound coming from you, sadly, isn't doing justice to the words that you want to give us. We're really getting the sense that you're in shock at Diego Maradona's death, a sense that this was someone who was treated, in your view, rightly as a footballing god, and possibly, certainly in your view, and that of many other people, the best footballer of all time. That, of course, is something many people will argue about, but what I will add to that is that I've seen many, many football matches and seen many, many footballers, and there are very, very few who come anywhere near the standard, the quality, the ability of Diego Maradona, who died at the age of 60. We'll have more reaction from around the world to the passing of Maradona between now and midnight Paris time. For now, let's move on to more world news. And news of great importance. Women around the world have been marking International Day of Elimination of Violence Against Women, highlighting how lockdowns due to the pandemic have left many trapped with their abusers and exposed to even greater danger. The UN has said that since the outbreak of COVID-19, all types of violence against women and girls, especially domestic violence, have intensified, with shelters now at capacity and helplines in some places seeing a 5-fold rise in calls. Here to talk on this is Asa Renya, who's Deputy Executive Director of the UN Women's Group. Thank you very much for being with us. The situation, as the UN has outlined, is indeed serious. But the problems have been there all the time. What needs to change? Clearly the attitude of men, the attitude of authorities too.
Yes, thank you for having me. Well, as you said, we have known about this problem for a long time, and it spiked during COVID-19. And what is lacking now is actually implementation of promises and measures with more systemized measures with funding. That is what is lacking. So far, we today hear a lot of good political support and rhetorics. We also have legislation in place in many countries that wasn't there 5 years ago. That's good news. But the implementation is lacking, and it's time to step up now. This problem just has to go away.
So there's that aspect that needs to change, but how about the social aspect of things? For instance, in a family scenario, if a boy sees his father hitting his mother, that is something that he learns from a very early age that can happen. You've got to try and change those attitudes, haven't you?
Yes, absolutely. You're totally true. We have to prevent the violence. And to do that, we need to have sexuality and relationship education in school, which speaks about respect, gender equality, and everybody's equal value, for example. We have knowledge on how to do that in an age-adequate way today. We also have to have go-to places for men who know themselves that they have a violent behavior or dangerous behavior towards women and children. And you're right at pointing at the children, because the violence against women is obviously bad enough. But so many children grew up in families where children are direct or indirectly witnessing and also victims themselves of the violence. And it just has to stop, because the implications for families and people's lives is just too enormous. And as you say, men themselves who do this are responsible, but it is a government's responsibility to stop impunity, which is widespread, and also to prevent the violence.
Indeed, it is horrific. So there's that aspect of the authorities taking it seriously, education to stop it being passed from generation to generation. How about support for women who want to complain, who want to get out of these situations? I imagine getting a place in a shelter, if you're a woman fleeing domestic violence, is not easy.
Surely, and we've seen that during the pandemic, a lot of governments and countries have stepped up, which is good news. And they did introduce helplines, shelters, other ways for women to reach police and social services without the violent partner knowing and seeing it. Also, some countries introduced emergency laws. The UN Secretary General asked for action, and countries did respond. However, the measures were still too ad hoc, and they were not funded enough. And we have to change this long term.
Asa Renya, Deputy Executive Director of Young Women, thank you very much indeed for joining us to really tell us more about this key issue that needs to stop. Violence against women, domestic violence, you call it whatever you like. It has to stop now. Thank you very much indeed. Time for business.